Thank you very much, Ms. DeLauro. I'm going to defer my questions until later. Ms. Fishbach, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate you both being here. And I think, Mr. Cole, you said it felt like deja vu. So, but very quickly, I think you mentioned in your opening statement that there was an agreement. This was all agreed, because when we left, it was our understanding, we voted, we passed it out. My understanding that the Senate was all set up and it was going to be done.
That's, your statement's correct. There was an agreement with the Senate. The bills had been negotiated in a bipartisan fashion. We tried to work closely with our Democratic colleagues, both the House and the Senate, to send it to them in the manner in which they requested. My friend, the ranking member, requested one thing, wanted a separate vote on that bill. We worked hard to secure that vote, and you were kind enough on this committee to give us that opportunity. And then, look, I've been arguing all along, we should have been doing this earlier in smaller packages. I just think that's a better way to proceed. But the Senate wanted 6 in one bill. And so they got what they asked for. And then they decided the situation, and I'm not going to speak for them, but obviously what happened in Minnesota impacted the deliberations of the Senate, and they changed the deals. That wasn't done in consultation. They basically broke one out. That was a direct negotiation, as I understand it, between the president and the minority leader in the United States Senate. Procedurally, that requires us then to look at the packages again. But there's no substantive disagreement on the 5 bills that we've negotiated in either chamber. I mean, they've passed the Senate, and if we take them up on the floor and pass them here, those will become law. As my friend, the ranking member, said, the remaining one is a 2-week extension, so other negotiations can occur, and I would assume at that point they'll either come to a conclusion or not, and we'll be dealing with that bill again. But what we won't do is derail the rest of the government. 94% of the government will be funded. Our military will be paid. Our borders will be secure. Important, research programs and programs that support our most vulnerable will happen. We don't have disagreement there, or the disagreements we have been resolved through negotiation. So putting those things through, I think, is the right thing to do. Working on the area that is still a matter of contention is probably the appropriate thing to do as well. Again, I would have preferred all 6 be accepted as negotiated. This is the second time the Senate has done this. We had a negotiation last year. They asked for a clean CR, which they got. They asked for a short-term CR, which they got, and then they introduced extraneous matters, which were health care, Obamacare era subsidies, and undoing Medicaid reforms that Congress had enacted into law and the President signed earlier last year. So, it's pretty hard dealing with the United States Senate because when you've got an agreement, they don't feel bound by the agreement that they had. So again, we're sort of used to this, but I would rather preserve the really 94% of funding where we have agreed, get that taken care of. That shouldn't be subject to this debate or this controversy, and then move on. There's clearly negotiations at the highest level going on the Department of Homeland Security right now. There have been a number of moves by both parties, by the President, by the Senate, to continue this discussion. So obviously we would deal with that at that point. But I don't think we should miss the opportunity of passing into law things we agree on to keep the government shut down. I mean, literally, if we don't act on this, we're going to be back at the point where people that keep our skies safe aren't getting paid, where promised pay raises to air traffic controllers and the Coast Guard don't happen, where we don't have money in reserve for a natural disaster. We have one undergoing right now, where our men and women that protect us overseas wonder whether or not they're going to get paid or their families here are going to be safe. So let's solve the range of problems where we have very substantial bipartisan agreement and negotiation, and then work on this remaining problem.
And Mr. Cole, I agree with you, and I'm hoping that a majority of the folks, when these gets to the floor, do agree with you, because you're absolutely right. We need to keep the 94% open, and I'm just sorely disappointed that, I mean, when we left, you know, and the Senate was supposed to come in, that the agreement that was struck was not honored, and it's deeply disappointing, because I know that everybody worked very hard, and we took the votes to make sure that that would happen. So it's unfortunate, but I do think, you know, that at this point, you're right. We need to keep the 94% open and let that bit that's being held hostage, essentially, until they get their way, that we've got the 2 weeks to deal with it. But in the meantime, let's get the other done. Did you want to say something? You looked like at one point you were going to say something.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Fishbach. Mr. McGovern, you're